God message today, when heaven waits for your yes. It began in the quiet hours before dawn, when the world was still wrapped in silence and the stars were fading into morning light. A woman named Elara Grace knelt beside her window, tears streaming down her face. She whispered, "God, I'm tired of waiting. I've prayed, I've believed, and still nothing moves." Her words floated like fragile wings toward heaven, but her heart felt heavy with the weight of unanswered prayers. For years, she had believed that one day her breakthrough would come, that the promise whispered into her spirit would finally take shape. But now, in the stillness of her little house on the edge of Riverbend town, faith felt like an echo that no longer returned. She looked at her trembling hands and said softly, "Maybe you've forgotten me, Lord." But in that very moment, as the first light touched the curtains, something shifted in the unseen realm. God had not been silent. He had been waiting not for her strength, but for her surrender. And so, when Elara closed her eyes, she felt a warmth surround her. It wasn't sunlight, it was presence. A voice, calm and steady, whispered within her heart, "My child, I was never late. I was preparing you for what was already yours." Her breath caught. "Lord, is that you?" "Yes," the voice said. "You have mistaken my preparation for my absence. You thought the waiting was punishment, but it was protection. I have kept you hidden not to harm you, but to heal you." Elara began to weep, her tears falling like rivers of release. "But Lord," she said, "I've lost so much time. I've watched others receive blessings while I'm still here praying for scraps of hope." And God answered gently, "What you call delay, I call design. Every closed door was me keeping you from rooms that could have destroyed you. Every heartbreak was me shaping your heart to carry more love than pain. You see, Elara, my silence was not rejection. It was strategy." The words struck deep. She remembered how many nights she'd looked up at the ceiling, asking why the doors never opened. Now, for the first time, she understood. Heaven was never ignoring her. Heaven was aligning her. That morning, she went to the river outside her home. The water shimmered with soft golden light, and a quiet wind whispered through the trees. As she looked at the reflection of her own weary face, she heard again, "Be still, and know that I am God." Something in her spirit broke, not in weakness, but in surrender. She lifted her hands and whispered, "Then have your way, Lord. Even if I don't understand, I trust you." And in that instant, peace filled her heart. Not the peace that comes from answers, but the peace that comes from knowing God holds every unanswered question. Days turned into weeks, and something miraculous began to unfold. Small blessings appeared like morning dew, unexpected favor at her work, a friend who reconnected after years, a quiet joy that returned to her prayers. She realized that miracles rarely enter with thunder. They come softly, walking on the edges of faith. One evening, as the sun painted the sky with amber and rose, Elara stood at that same window where her tears once fell. She smiled. "You were right, Lord. You were never late. You were always here." And then the voice spoke again, not from the sky, but from within. "My daughter, faith was never about waiting for something to happen. Faith is trusting me even when nothing seems to move." Her story began to spread across Riverbend. People would come to her little house for prayer. They'd sit at her wooden table, and she would tell them how God had met her not in the noise but in the quiet. She'd say, "The world will tell you to keep fighting, but sometimes the greatest strength is in stillness." A man named Caleb, burdened with loss, came to see her one night. "How do I trust again when everything I love has fallen apart?" he asked. Elara took his hand and said, Caleb's eyes filled with tears, "But what if I can't believe?" She smiled through her own tears. "Then borrow my belief until yours returns. That's what faith does. It carries us when we can't walk." As the months passed, the people of Riverbend began to gather near the river every Sunday morning. They prayed, they sang, they shared testimonies of quiet miracles, and though the town was small, its faith became mighty. Elara often looked up at the horizon and whispered, "Thank you, God. You turned my waiting room into a sanctuary. And heaven would whisper back, I always turn pain into purpose for those who don't give up. Moral: God's timing is never off. It's perfectly designed for the moment your heart learns to trust Him more than your plan. In a world that moves fast and demands proof, faith still whispers the same eternal truth. When heaven seems silent, it's not denial, it's divine preparation. So today, if your heart is heavy and your prayers feel unanswered, remember Ilara's story. Let God's name be your anchor and His presence your peace. Because one day, when you look back, you'll see that every waiting season was heaven saying, I was building something eternal in you. Type yes if you believe in God. Type 1111 if you believe in God.